So this is just going to be a brief episode, really, um, where I'm just going to share some sort of rough thoughts I've got on how I plan to navigate the use of, Substack, really, notes, the articles, but also Patheos, where I've been a blogger since 2003, and I don't want to stop that. But also social media of other forms, where I don't want to stop it either. So here's how this works. It seems so. Notes are very much the home for just little thoughts that I have, or thoughts that I found elsewhere, or for me to share articles that perhaps other people have written, or indeed I've written, that are useful and that perhaps trigger a thought in me. So I think of them as like bricks, really, almost a random collection of bricks, and gathering some of those bricks up from time to time into an article. Uh, for here on Substack, or indeed in a more polished and sort of more concise form on Patheos, does seem like a good idea. But for now, it's just scattering bricks on the water, as it were, and seeing what comes of them. But I think that's quite helpful, and I'm enjoying the kind of little dialogue and little conversation that you can have in notes with people, and just little words of affirmation, little encouragements, little summaries, and perhaps though, and this is something I'm not done as much of yet, but breaking down, well, no, that's not true. I have done it. Breaking down some of your bigger articles into these pithy, bite-sized quotes that well, they can stand on their own, or they can make you think. So I did a interview yesterday, and I've already shared one quote from there, as a note, but I think I'll share another one. And it's a phrase that's not unique to that interview, but it's a phrase that I've used in the introduction of my book when I recently revised that. And it's that the cross alone cannot save you. Now, that sentence is quite provocative and quite challenging, but it's maybe a sentence that's worth sharing here in notes. Now, I can do that either as text, or I can do that as a sort of clip of the video. And I think, yeah, so we'll talk a bit more about that actually. So for me, I could build up from the building blocks to the article and the video and the podcast and all of that, or I could break the podcast down into the notes. So it can work either way, actually. And what I did yesterday is perhaps an interesting case in point, because I recorded a video conversation with somebody I'd not met before, but they were an expert in an area that I thought would be interesting for you guys, and so I recorded that. I then took the transcript and edited the transcript, um, and then it got shared here on Substack. But what I decided to do over on Patheos, because on Patheos I do have an audience. They're not very responsive audience, so I sometimes wonder if they really actually read the things or not. But I don't want to just discard them. And actually, what seems to work over there is a slightly more polished, shorter article. So I think sometimes Substack will be a bit of a testing ground for some of my thoughts, to be honest. And then when I've sort of had a chance to refine and polish them, um, then a similar but shorter, more succinct, more pithy article that's obviously longer than a note, but shorter than some of the articles or podcasts here would be, will go over on Patheos. Now, one of the really amazing things that I don't think people talk about much on here is that when you do a podcast like this is just a little live video, then I will let this go out, because part of my raison d'etre here. Oh, hello, Jackie. Thank you for the hi. So I was just going to say, part of my reason for being on here is also to help other writers or content producers, whatever you want to call us. And I think that if you're somebody like me who's happy to speak, but also happy to write, and also happy to perhaps interview, then, and if you are quite verbal, and I'm certainly that. Sometimes I like to just riff a little bit, like I'm doing right now, to be honest. Use my my mouth to help me think. Now, it can get you into trouble, uh, but hopefully not today. And so one of the things that I noticed yesterday, well, I've noticed this before, but it was quite poignant yesterday, was that when you do this long video, one thing that Substack does automatically, or can do if you've set it up to do this, is it automatically looks at the video and goes, I think that bit's more interesting. And it creates these clips. And at first I was a bit like, why am I surrendering control? But I don't have time to go through my video and try and work out what the most impactful bits are. And what it does is it uploads clips automatically, as well as the full video, by the way. Because for some reason, the videos on here, you can't embed them. So I did use YouTube to embed the whole video on my brief Patheos article about the interview. So if that makes sense. So Patheos has YouTube embedded video, but it also has a brief article that kind of stands alone, but also introduces you to the longer interview. So the idea is people have a quick look at it on Patheos and go, maybe I'll watch the whole of that. And if so, they can either do that there, or they can come over here to listen to it as well, or of course they can come over here in that instance to read the edited transcripts. And I think that's a format I'll probably use quite a lot because it kind of makes sense of the different channels that I have. But yeah, YouTube Shorts, where Substack will automatically create what it thinks will probably be, impactful clips. And in the past, anytime I've tried to use YouTube Shorts, and I have a few times because I got into Substack a little bit, it hasn't really worked. I've had like 10 views or something. But what's really interesting is like yesterday, for example, there was one of the clips that Substack had created that really stuck out. And funnily enough, it was that clip I just mentioned about, the cross alone can never save you. And our short discussion about that. And it only lasts a few seconds, but it had had hundreds of views yesterday quite quickly. So last night, I made a quick decision to download that clip. And I did it from YouTube, but I think you can download the clips from in here. Yeah, 10 views is good if they're the 10 right people. You're absolutely right. I have no problem with that. But what was interesting was that one of the clips got hundreds of views, like 800 views or something like that, in a very short period of time. And so you sort of think, well, the algorithm is liking that. And you can fight the algorithm or you can run with it. And on here, I'm glad that I don't really need to fight the algorithm because it seems to find good content and deliver that good content to people that feel like they may benefit from it. And that's certainly my experience on the receiving end. But so I took that clip, and funnily enough, the one place I haven't shared that clip is here, and perhaps I'll do that later. But I took that clip, downloaded it, and then uploaded the same clip to TikTok, TikTok, to X, to Facebook, and Instagram, because I always upload to Instagram, and that goes on to Facebook. So this same clip then, which Substack had created for my long waffly interview, then got hundreds, I think, overall hundreds of views elsewhere. So it's gone quite well, actually. I can't remember the exact totals, but certainly, see, my problem is I have loads of followers, but they don't always get shown the content. So giving something that has some impact, perhaps, potentially, or that the algorithm is possibly going to like, because if the YouTube algorithm liked it, then perhaps the other algorithms will as well. But it's really rather sad. Yeah, engagement a little bit, not a huge amount, but a little bit. So, but engagement's what you really want. Anyway, so that's more or less where I'm at, really. I think the big podcast interviews or the big podcast chats are a great way for me, at least, to get my thinking out there. Recognizing that not everyone's going to watch the whole thing, you edit the transcript, then create a Patheos article from the transcript, and then also look and see if any of these clips do take off. And I guess we live in a real world where we have to go with the algorithm a little bit, and that's what I'll do. Anyway, that was all of my thoughts for this morning, unless anyone's got a quick question. No, okay. Well, thanks a lot, guys.